He's a longtime friend of our founder, Kenny. Staff Sergeant, United States Army, Infantry. Drill Sergeant. Funny guy, known for shaming people who eat too much food and don't move too much. Which we all need. I'm not going to give you the whole resume. Ladies and gentlemen, our keynote tonight, John Burk!
Okay. I thought we were doing this later. I didn't know it was going to be up here so soon. Oh, okay. Let me pull this up. I'm not going to fat shame you. I promise. That comes later. No, I read the pamphlet and it said I was supposed to give you an inspiring speech. I don't know if you know who I am. That's not what I do anymore. I started that way, but then politics came into play and it turns you very sour very quickly. So I'm trying to get back on the right track. But I'd asked Kenny what I should speak about tonight because I was a little unsure. And instantly he said, politics and religion. So buckle up, you little heathens. We're about to get holy rolling up in here. No. Much to my embarrassment, I did not know this was a Notre Dame town. I showed up and it said, welcome Irish. And I was like, well, then they like to drink. I'm Irish. I get it. That was not the case. But I also was told that they're playing Navy tonight or tomorrow. Tonight! How about that? Y'all, Notre Dame, right? Yeah, okay. I'm afraid I have to root for the Navy, though. I always do what I can to support the LGBTQ. So, there was one guy in a Navy show. I know he's good. I love it. I don't think he heard me. We're good. It gets worse. It gets so much worse. How does one give a speech? Well, when I asked Kennedy what to talk about, he said, list what you've done. And how does one give a speech or sermon about oneself? Because no matter how humble or modest, the delivery still feels weird. It feels like you brag. So no shit, there I was with Tim Kennedy. If you don't know, you're better off for it. If you want to talk politics, I'll give you a 3-hour lecture as to why I think the IRS and the ATF should both be abolished. But that's not why we're here tonight. You're my kind of crowd. I like it. I grew up in a very patriotic Friday Night Lights kind of town to where everything revolved around high school football, of which I did not play. I was skinny. I enlisted when I was 17. I came from a single-parent household, latchkey kid generation. So Dad was gone. I don't want to talk about it. No. And Mom did everything she could to support my brother and myself, which meant when you came home, you locked the door until your parents came home, and then you could play when they got home. And she worked very hard to give us a good life. But lacking a father figure meant there was a lot of arguments. There was a lot of misunderstandings on my part. And so, as a result, fights would increase. And one time, I still remember, I don't know why, but she said, if you hate it here so much, go join the Army. And I did. I was 17, and I forged my father's signature. And my mother didn't think I'd do it, but she was never more proud. My first duty station was Baumholder, Germany, where I was assigned to the 1st Armored Division. I deployed for the invasion of Iraq with them, and after fighting from Fallujah to Najaf to Baghdad, we were sent home after 12 months. This was back in 2004, at the end of the invasion. And back then, President Bush had said, if you were an occupational force, or if you were part of the invasion force, you weren't going to be an occupation force. And we were lied to. Go figure. We were relieved by the 1st Cavalry Division, but within their first month, they'd lost their command and many of their chain of command from the new weapon of choice used by the enemies in Iraq, which was the IEDs. So after we'd been sent home, many of you may actually recall this. This is, I think, 2004, 2005. Men were literally, and women were going home from the deployment. Planes were turned around midair and sent right back. Dudes were on the tarmac loading up to go home after an invasion, a war, and they were said, get off, you're going right back. So back we went. This time to the Sunni Triangle. So we went from fighting from the invasion to the Sunni Triangle, which was Mahmudiyya, Yusufiyya, Al-Tarak, some of the worst places imaginable. I'd returned back to Iraq in 2006 and managed to get caught in the surge. At the time, Iraq wasn't doing very well. We didn't have enough troops there, so Rumsfeld surged Iraq, and we increased the recruitment numbers, and a lot of people went back over. At the time, people were on their second, third deployments. It wasn't uncommon. So I ended up doing a 15-month tour on top of 17 months prior. After that, I figured I'd done enough that surely the Army wouldn't continue sending me to these hellholes. And 1 year later, I was in Afghanistan in the Valley of Death with the 101st Airborne. Have you seen that documentary, Restrepo? Who's seen that? It was dubbed the world's most dangerous valley. And I don't say that as a feather in my cap. I say that in a sense of most of us were Iraq veterans. None of us had really been to Afghanistan. It was still a new war. It was still the wild, wild west. So we were walking into uncharted territory. After 3.5 years in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan, I went on to serve as a drill sergeant, an NCO school instructor, along with multiple other various positions within the infantry. And then something happened that I did not intend to happen. I'd made a video back when Facebook was still used to share posts about if you just gets 10 likes or shares, it'll cure this kid with cancer. You remember those? You probably shared a few of them. Some of them in here you did, I know. But I made a video, and I fat-shamed people. I fat-shamed them good. I did. But the intent was not to say I hate you. The intent was that get up and move. You've been blessed with one body. You get one body in your life. Don't destroy it. Don't abuse it. I saw men coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan missing limbs, out there doing 5Ks and marathons. And when the video went viral, it went worldwide. This is back in the origins. People were translating it in Brazil, and it was me hyped up on pre-workout just saying, don't be a fat ass. That's it. I think it's great. I think it's a horrible thing. I think it's a waste. And everybody has their fights, and I get that. But it's no reason to quit or to give up or to make excuses. I don't care if today you go home and you slam a cheeseburger. We do. That's why we go to the gym. It's to eat like that. As a result, I earned a following on social media, and it was not the intent. I never made any video to get a following, to get famous, but it turned into becoming one of the first veteran influencers outside of Matt Best, Derek Weida, Yusha Thomas, Drew Hernandez, and then there was fat-shaming Burk. Great content. Matt Best, one of the greats. Fat-shaming. I'll take it. It worked. I was one of the first OG bro vets. I was grunt-styled out. I had my American flag hat. I probably had American flags on both shoulders, and I probably had a holster with some kind of sheepdog something on it. And if you're still wearing that stuff, I got news for you. No, you do what makes you happy. And that's when I met Kenny and his wonderful wife, Sarah. I was actually trying to put together a website. When the video went viral, I'd actually had a lot of offers come my way. I was contacted by a lot of people. I even went on television out in California, one of the doctors, I think it was, to defend my video. And as a result, the entire time, my Facebook is just blowing up. 100,000, 200,000, 500,000. I'm sitting here, it's like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but okay. There was no content creator's mindset. And so I wanted to start a business. But on top of that, I'd seen firsthand from many different veterans out there how bad the VA was. Now, I'm not going to turn this into a VA bash fest. I know VAs are not the same across this country. There are some really good ones, and there's some really amazing employees that do very good jobs because they actually care. But then there is the dark side. There are VAs out there that are underfunded, or rather, they have just crappy employees. And so we saw a lot of veterans that were kind of homeless, looking for community. I still remember there was one veteran, I don't remember his name, and my inbox would blow up. with all kinds of DMs from guys in distress, women as well, but guys mainly because infantry is attracted to infantry. It's just how it is. And this gentleman had shrapnel in his ankle from Iraq. He was actually in Texas, and the VA would not take the shrapnel out. They said there was something to it, and it caused him a lot of pain. And this gentleman, my hand to God, I'm not making this up, had to go down to Mexico to get his foot amputated because the VA would not touch it. The stories I could tell you. So, together with Kenny, we started the Alpha Nerds Guild. Excuse me. And the intent was to bring veterans together around gaming, because we're the generation that grew up with Nintendo. We grew up with PC. We were there when World of Warcraft first came out. Many of you will probably deny it because you don't want to come out as a nerd. It's okay. You're insane. I play Rogue. You're good. I play D&D. You're good. It's okay now. You can come out. So Kenny got recommended to me by somebody in Grunt Style when I was working with them. When I said I was bro vet, I was bro vet. And for those that don't know what a bro vet is, it's the guy that's, I don't know how you describe that. Me, yeah, was, not now. Watch it. But Kenny came highly recommended. And we started the Alpha Nerds Guild. And Kenny put in hours upon hours. And what we provided was that you could write us and you could send us your DD-214. For those that don't know, it's your record of service. And we would send you a free gaming console. Kenny actually had worked deals with Best Buy. We sent over 300 gaming consoles. Veterans connected. They gamed together. Now, of course, there were people out there that felt like this wasn't the best method. I personally didn't care, because there's a million different NPOs out there, which is a good thing. But ours did what it did for a certain group of veterans. Just like every NPO, guns, racing, whatever, it takes a community. So Kenny and I started this. The idea was to bring veterans together. Kenny was such a major part of A&G. He oversaw the shipping of the gaming consoles. He facilitated the outreach program. We fundraised to purchase gaming consoles and sent them directly to veterans. One condition of receiving a gaming console was that you had to join our gaming community, and you had to stay present via Facebook, check-ins, a form of accountability. Eventually, I had to step away, and Kenny took over. He did this while also running Freedom System. And this shows you how much Kenny and his wife care about the community. So if you would, just stand and be honored, both of you, because you deserve it. A round of applause for both of these wonderful people. That should be a standing ovation. They have done so much for so many. I don't care about any of you, though, so you're good. Things got a bit busy for me. During that time, I'd been given a part on American Grit Season 2 with John Cena. It was a reality TV show type of thing. It was, I did it out of morbid curiosity. Why not? It's a one-time thing. And yes, I am the only man alive that can honestly say I have seen John Cena. I actually touched his butt. It was a joke. It was a thing. It's whatever. The offer that I got to scream at people and get paid to do it, okay, sure. Why not? It was great. And things got busier for me, and the following grew. And I don't want to focus on the following, again, from a sense of ego. The following I had in the back of my mind, I wanted to convert that into something. To do content, to get a following, to be liked, to be recognized is worthless. Nobody gives a crap about who you are, because I tell you this right now. Can any of you, just a social experiment, give me a song from the 18th century that you can think of off the top of your head? Outside of classical. Very few people. Because you're about 2 generations from being completely forgotten. In 50 years, no one will know who Michael Jackson was. Maybe. Maybe a few. It will move on and it will evolve. So the fame, the likes, the social media, the validation, it serves no purpose outside of feeding the near ego. So I wanted the following for a reason. The reason I had to step away from Alpha Nerds and many of the places that in 2019, right before COVID, my partner Josh and I launched Shell Shock CBD. And I was not a believer of CBD initially. In fact, I spoke out to the point where I said I didn't really believe in it, but I'd never tried it. And this was part of the growth of me as a human being outside of the soldier. And so I had to open my mind and try some new things. And I found that CBD actually worked, not to get high, but to make you feel tranquil, to make you feel calm. Because too many people conflated it with marijuana. And it's not the same. It's not the same. Trust me, it is not the same. But when I tried it with an open mind, it wasn't just the CBD aspect. It was what else have I not tried because I've been given a perspective on it, but not my own, somebody else's. So it helped me to understand maybe you don't know as much as you think you do. The deployments, all that. You come back and you think that you've got life figured out, and you really don't. And that's why I think most veterans have the hardest time, is when you go from a purpose, when you go from direction, the very definition of leadership, there is no how-to guide to get from taking off the uniform to now I have to do a 9 to 5. The greatest thing about the military that I miss the most, and in fact, I don't think he's here anymore, my old platoon sergeant, I didn't even know he was going to be here, James Messer, he had to take off earlier. He and I served together in the 101st, fought in the same ground, but he even brought up in there one of the greatest hardships for veterans is the transition, because there is no guiding force. You take people that are raised to be alpha male, meat eater types, and this is not the newer generation. I'm talking about when you could tell racist jokes and you didn't mean it. When that was your brother, it didn't matter where he came from or his background. What mattered is if you mess with him, you mess with all. That's just how it worked. And things have changed so much now. So you go from that environment of collectivism. You know, when you go to sleep in that patrol base in the mountains of Afghanistan, you've got at least 16 other Muldoons there, armed to the teeth, ready to kill on your behalf. And you trust them. You trust them with your life. And then you go to that, to you have no responsibilities. That scene in Rambo, and I hate referencing movies because they always get it wrong, but that scene in Rambo, and I say this because it resonates with people. When he's in that cafe after he shoots up the town and he says, I go from over there operating $1 million pieces of equipment, and here I can't even hold a job. And there is so much truth to that. There is so much truth to it. So after having launched the company, the following was a direct-to-consumer line. When we launched Shell Shock, within the first month, we'd made $14,000. And that was gross. And I don't, again, not to brag, but we had never seen this kind of money before. And anyone in here that's a business owner knows that's not a lot of money. That was overhead. And then it grew, and it grew, and it grew. And here I am with a partner. I'm a vet. He's an audio engineer. We have no business experience except what I did with Grunt Style, and we figured this out together. So when I tell people, when it comes to entrepreneurship and you think that you can't, if a dumbass like me can figure this out, there is no excuse you can make to me why you can't. There's none. Now that you've got ChatGPT, there's really none. That stuff, oh my gosh. I ask it all the boomer stuff. How do I spell? Whatever. Neither of us expected to launch a company. What are we cheering about? Oh, okay. Neither of us expected to launch a company and have the scale that quickly. We were blessed. We were very blessed. There isn't a day that goes by that I honestly do not thank God for making me so pig-headed. The challenges we faced as a new company during the shutdowns were innumerable. And regardless of how I felt about business, being locked down, the jabs infuriated me to no degree. Stack that with trying to figure your way through a forest blind in the business world, It makes for some very, very stressful situations. And then you compile that with CBD and Delta 8 and Delta 9. Now you're navigating a very difficult market. We had to learn very important lessons very quickly while making as few mistakes as possible. The lessons I learned from my military service attributed to much of this, but it was not the lessons that you would think. It was the recall formations and very little personal time. It was the being tasked to do jobs that you're not trained to do while still being successful. Those types of lessons. I'm sure all of us that raised their hand that served, you probably enlisted for one thing, but at some point in your career you got told you're going to do this for a little while, and you probably hated it. If you're a urinalysis person, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They watch you pee in the cup. You don't want that job. We managed to convert a social media presence into a trusting customer base. To this day, Shell Shock CBD has an 86% customer retention rate, and that's unheard of in most smaller businesses. Because a lesson that took me about 5 years to learn was that you don't have to be a corporation. You don't have to be the next grunt style. In this age of social media where we feel we have to keep up with the Jones, you see so-and-so doing this with their business and doing this and scaling. But what they haven't told you is about being satisfied in that small business space. So now when you email the company, you're going to get one of three people, myself or my two people, my partner or another employee. I learned the value of worth from my wife, your bandwidth, your energy. And speaking of the value of worth, people are always going to try and underbid you. If you're a contractor, you automatically know the customer is going to try and undercut you as much because they're trying to save $1. I get it. And you're trying to make $1. But there was this cafe a long time ago. And this is when Picasso was first really big. He had already made it famous. People knew who Picasso was. And he was sitting in a cafe, and I've told this story many times, and it stuck with me throughout the years. And Picasso was just sitting there, doodling on a napkin. Much in like an environment like this, just Parisian stuff. And people were sitting there drinking their coffee, and they're just looking, oh, that's Picasso, that's Picasso, hey, it's Picasso. And this lady stands up and walks over to him and says, I'll buy that napkin that you're drawing on. How much would you charge for it? He looked at her and said, $30,000. Yeah, same. That's the reaction I get when I go to the grocery store. Like, oh my God. It's ridiculous. And so the lady, I mean, had much to, as you respond, it's like $30,000. And she's like, it took you 30 seconds to draw that. He's like, no, ma'am, it took me 30 years. It took me 30 years of training, of practicing, of studying, of paying other people to teach me. And that applies in almost every profession, whether you're an electrician, a welder. It doesn't matter what you do. The lessons that you're going to learn from going out there and getting in the wood line and training are going to be invaluable. You're never going to go to a Tony Robbins. Tommy Rob? Tony? I don't even know this dude's name. You won't learn it there. You'll feel good, but you're not going to get actionable information. We live in a society where things that can help you are not actually given to you. It's masqueraded as feel-good. We're very Amazon Prime. We need it now. We don't have patience anymore. We still make mistakes. I made a lot. And it's those mistakes that serve as my greatest lessons. Some cheap, others very expensive. Lessons that, like I said, you cannot buy from anyone. Every time we get a brand new lieutenant in, and I'm not trying to play upon the stereotype that you young lieutenants are stupid. They're not. They're motivated. They're raw. They just don't understand how the Army works. So when you get a new one, they think they're going to win Iraq or Afghanistan in like a week. It's like, no, you're not. We're just trying to keep you alive for the next year, sir. That's literally it. But to every lieutenant, I would tell it's like that we have to go to the wood line. The things that you learn in your books, it doesn't matter. It's a great foundation of information to have. Just like many of you go to a tech school. You go to a nursing school. You get the foundation. And I'm assuming much of which you probably won't apply in your real life, but at least you have a basic understanding. But then when you get on the job, it's like, oh, so this is how it really is. And here we are almost 6 years later, and I still don't know what the hell I'm doing. Somewhat. Here we are 10 years later, and it makes me happy to see friends prospering, and having a turnout like this because of something that you yourself have started. That's an incredible testament to yourself. We continue to navigate these turbulent economic waters by using a common sense approach to problem solving. The lessons that you learned in the service, I don't think many veterans get what it is that you actually learned, because I will say this, and I mean this from the utmost depths of what little much of a soul I have left, because the Army took a lot. You're going to learn more from a bad leader than you will a good one. You're going to learn what not to be. My entire career, I think I had maybe 3 good leaders that I actually genuinely respected because they led from the front. These were not leaders that led from the back. If something had to get done, it's like, you're going to do it, but I'll be there with you. And those are leaders that I have utmost respect for to this day. As veterans, many of us go through a difficult time transitioning once we leave the service. We're indoctrinated while we're in. Brainwashed, you could even say, but with good reason. I don't say that in a sense of like, look what they did to us. You have to be. You have to buy into the mission. You have to buy into the team. There is no I. There is no feelings. You are there to kill, and that's it. Now you remove that fighter from the battlefield, and what's he left with? The warrior must learn to adapt back into civilian life. But the problem is that Amazon doesn't need a sniper. Michelin Man does not need a door kicker. So you have to let that part of you die. And that goes, I think, against a lot of what we're trained to be like. You can't turn it off, but the problem is that you have to. You've got to let it go, and you've got to move on. And veterans don't like doing that, because how do you beat that? It's like Uncle Joe from Napoleon. I could throw a football over those mountains. No, you can't. I could. No, it's over. It's time to move on and face the next objective. You can still maintain that military mindset, but you've got to move on. When I get together with veterans, a lot of the times, I'm just being honest with you, this is what I'm known for and why people don't like me. I don't like going to veteran events because all we'll talk about is what's back there. No one talks about what are you doing now. I don't care if it's a failure. I don't care if it's a success. As long as you can move on. That's worth clapping for. I agree with that. But it is very addicting to talk about what was, because it brings with it a sense of nostalgia. It brings with it a time that, let's just be honest, we hated it. I hated it. I hated almost every minute of it. And then you get out and it's just like, I miss it. I miss it. I didn't hate all of it. There was some good. Veterans are forced to go from 100 miles an hour down to school zone speed. And that leaves a big hole in many of us that becomes very difficult to fill sometimes. So when somebody comes up to me and they say, I've watched you on social media, the one thing I've been I don't know if I'd say blessed, I've been in this very weird position to post my life throughout the years. And people follow for whatever reason, I don't know. But I say that, and I want people to understand that I had a different experience than many of you. Having the following put me leaps and bounds ahead of most veterans. I developed it in a very weird way. But your journey and your struggle is not going to be the same as mine. Mine won't be the same as yours. We all have different paths that we have to go down. But for many veterans, they refuse to even pick a path. It's to stay in the loading area. So I'll leave you now with lessons that I've learned from my own wild and strange journey from combat veteran to civilians to business owner. Exercise. I'm fat shaming you now. Exercise. Now, I'm not saying you got to go out and run 10 miles. I'm not saying you got to do what we did in the Army. God knows many of us can't anymore, myself included. Go for a walk. Skip the energy drink. Skip the Coke. Every so often, take care of yourself. Because I'm sure many can attest that as you get older, it becomes harder. Your health is the only thing that you have the most control of. Lee Yoniyama, he was one of my first platoon sergeants, imparted that with me. He said the 2 things that you control in the military are height and weight and your PT score, and you've got no excuse. And he wasn't wrong. We're getting older and the aches and pains, knee and back issues are starting to become a little bit more than some slight pain. The generation born before the internet is starting to wrinkle a little bit. I've chosen to accept it with grace. You can fight it, kicking and screaming all you want, but in the end, we're all going to be prunes, ass up for worm food. It's going to happen. We're all going to die. We're all one breath away from losing everything you have built, and you will be forgotten in 2 generations. So your quality of life is completely up to you. Make memories. I don't think they're feeling it on that one. It's okay. I feel it. Make memories. I have found that the happiest times I've been in recent years is when I'm acting like an idiot with my wife randomly somewhere, doing something that scares you a little bit. It's weird. It's honestly weird. You go in there shaking, and then when you get done, it's like, I need to do that more. Force yourself to slow down. I don't mean in life. The roses are still there, and you can smell them. You just need to remind yourself to. And I speak from experience on this one. I'm not pulling random crap out of the ether. These are things that I've had to learn and work on. While traveling abroad, a friend had told me, there's a saying about you Americans. He said, you're always in a rush to go nowhere. How many have been to Europe? Have you been to Europe? Have you ever seen the cafes they have just randomly on the street? It's the greatest experience just to sit down and have a cup of coffee and just watch people. Or if when a stranger sits down and you just strike up a random conversation, it makes you feel like a weird human being again. Americans don't have it as much, and I wish we did. Travel when you can. It's good for the soul. Mark Twain had said, travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one's own little corner of the earth for a lifetime. Continue to learn. Growing up, my parents had me playing baseball year after year. I was occupied and a constant student. Not the best student. I dropped out and I joined the Army, so clearly not the best student, which I did get my degree while I was in, though. Received, whatever. I don't know what it is. As a young boy full of energy, busy hands are what's needed most. But the problem that I see as adults is that we stop learning. And I don't mean in school. I feel that sometimes for many of us, veterans and civilians alike, we tend to forget to have a hobby. Learning doesn't just mean sitting down and reading a book. Learn a craft. Start writing. Make the sourdough. She keeps putting it off. But do something that stimulates your mind. We crave it, whether we realize it or not. And sometimes we get calloused. Life kind of turns you into this little stone inside. Which leads me to the next one. And this is coming from a drill sergeant / infantryman. Experience art. I'm not saying you have to learn about Picasso. In fact, he was a very boring artist. He's very overrated. I think he sucks. I'm sorry. But the purpose of art is to produce a feeling. It's up to you to be self-aware. Now listen to me on this one. It's up to you to be self-aware enough to understand and enjoy the feeling that a piece of art will make you feel and experience. You could hate it. That's a feeling. You could love it. That's a feeling. You've seen those bougie movies where the art goes, how does that make you feel? And they give you this, but that's the truth of it. It's there to elicit a reaction. In fact, many of you, I'm sure, go home and you have military stuff on your walls. That's art, whether you believe it or not. Not everyone is deserving of you, or your attention, or your energy. You come with a built-in mental battery, and this is what I've learned from my wife. The more relationships you have in life, the more drain you put on that battery. A great man once said that if you make at least 5 good friends in your life, you should consider yourself blessed. Be selective with those friends. They are what define you. for you are truly the company that you keep. Conserve your energy for those that deserve it, to include yourself. That which you consume, you become. And that leads me to the most important lesson of all. It's never too late to get right with God. Any successful and happy society must have a fundamental moral grounding. I simply suggest you take one look at the world around us and you can see how insane it has become. God is unchanging and He's here for all of us so long as you call His name and never stop praying. Thank you.